Hello, Dr. Dan Miller, Historical Solutions LLC. You're on the 250 River with Dr. Dan. We are top fiving today on the middle of March, or as we approach the middle of March. We're going to be looking at 250 years ago, real people, real stories from real life. 250 years ago, the week of March the 7th, kind of ending in March the 7th. This is episode 18 on the 250 River with Dr. Dan. Top 5 from this week. These are the top 5 things that just kind of strike me as important in ascending order as they speak to the American founding, the journey to that founding, and kind of our eternal quest for who we are as Americans. So, let's thank our episode sponsor this time around, 99% fact, 1% fiction. We're talking thank you to Elizabeth Clark and Elizabeth Knoll, the two Elizabeths, the double E's. The thank you to the double E's. So here's what we're going to be urging you to go to their store, their shop in Boston, beautiful downtown Boston, 1775. Elizabeth and Elizabeth will tell you all about the seeds that they have in. They've got seeds, everything. Peas, lettuce, cabbage, turnips, beans, melons, celery, on and on and on it goes. They've got the best seeds in town. For those of you who are gardeners, which is just about everybody if you want to eat. And a little word here, they said they got these seeds in before the British closed the port of Boston back late last year, so before everything shut down. They got this last round of seeds to come in. Now it's been in storage, but don't worry. Elizabeth and Elizabeth Clark and Knoll, they know what they're doing. And so we've got good, solid, reliable seeds for your garden and for your diet going forward. Please come to Clark and Knoll in Boston for all your seed needs. Grow it here. Thank you, Elizabeth and Elizabeth. 99% fact, 1% fiction as our sponsor for episode 18. All right, let's check my time of what we've done so far. Top 5. Good stuff. Real good stuff this week. So let's do this. Let's talk about slot number 5, the first entry in our top 5. Number 5 is going to be coming in. Don't know the guy's name. Nobody ever will. Don't know the little guy's name. Nobody ever will. But the man was on a horse delivering the mail, riding along the Newcastle-Richmond Road in the colony of Virginia. Nearing the end of his route, clippity-clop, as he's nearing the end of his route, he looks over to the side of the road and he sees a box. And inside, gets off the horse, goes down, looks inside the box, and doggone it, it's a baby. There's a baby in the box. There's a note next to the baby in the box, and some money, too. The note says that the money is for whoever is of kind enough heart to take care and charge of this baby for the rest of its life. Here's a little money toward that commitment. And our man, our mail carrier, picks up the baby, probably picks up the box, and gets back on his horse and trots off home. Puts the horse in the barn and the baby in his house, and he becomes the foster father 250 years ago today. My goodness, what a thing, right? The baby in the box. Ironically, which is a word we're going to come back to later, ironically, this was the week in 2025 that I first heard about the body in a box, which is a term now used in a kind of a biological artificial intelligence research activity that's underway in certain areas by certain people, and they're growing brain cells in a laboratory and looking to fuse them with computer and artificial intelligence to make these organoids. They're going to call them organoids. So it's kind of a next step. Instead of silicon-based computing, it would be biologic-based computing with a bit of a hybrid of a person and computer intelligence, artificial intelligence, organoids. Body in a box. 250 years ago, 250 years after, I should say, our unknown mail carrier comes upon a baby in a box. That's our start for the top 5. Top number 4 now. We're in number 4 slot, and we're going to go to Craven Street in London, England. We're going to go to Craven Street. There's an apartment there on Craven Street, and inside the apartment you see a guy named Benjamin Franklin, and he's packing boxes, he's packing trunks, he's packing crates. His servants are doing the same thing. And why are you doing it, Dr. Franklin? Why are you packing up and leaving England? Why are you stopping your lobbyist business on behalf of several colonies? Why are you leaving England and heading back home, as it were, to the New World? I've given up. That's it. It's all lost. We're done. There's no more chances here. That's his answer, or his set of answers. The question is begged, Dr. Franklin, but to do what now? That's the question we're going to leave this particular item with, and that's a leadership question for you. We're stopping. This won't succeed. I'm moving on to something else. Well, what else is it? That's our question for Dr. Franklin, and he comes in at number 4. Now, to some extent, 3 and 4 go together in our list this week, really closely together. I talked to myself about which one should be 3 and which one should be 4. We're on to number 3 now. It's kind of cause and effect. Effect was number 4. That's Franklin. The effect is, I'm giving up. Pack up the trunks, cut down the pole, roll up the wire. We're going home. I'm giving up. That's the effect of what number 3 is. And number 3 is 215 yeses and 61 noes. That's the vote in the House of Commons that is held today, 250 years ago. And they're doubling down and they're pushing harder. Remember, we talked about the port being bottled up, the seeds and so forth were the last thing in. The port of Boston is shut down. The colony of Massachusetts kind of just shut down politically, governmentally, as punishment for the Boston Tea Party. This is what's precipitated this whole crisis, really, and how Franklin says there's nothing that can be done. They're too stubborn. They're driving too hard. They're pushing too deep. I'm giving up. So what that 215 yeses is a bill, a legislative bill that will tighten and harshen economic and commerce laws in the region of New England. That's the next step they want to take. They've got it all shut down in terms of port traffic. They've got it all bottled up in terms of government and political customs. But now they're going to go even further with narrowing economic activity and defining and controlling commercial activity in the New England region. They're doubling down with this proposed legislation. 215 members of the House of Commons said, yes, do it. Do it now. 61 said, no, don't do it. So what this means is that the bill goes on to its 3rd reading and probably passage is where we're headed. Franklin said that, hell with it. I'm giving up. We can't reconcile. We can't repair the empire. What's going to happen next is what's going to happen next. Now what? So let's go on to number 2 of our top 5. NYC and NYC. New York City and New York Colony. Something's going on in the city and in the colony of New York. Here they are toughening up as a block of loyalist support for the British Crown, the British Empire, British imperial policy, and just kind of the British way of life as rule under monarchy. They're hardening in and saying, yes, that's us, that's who we are, and that's who we're meant to be. In New York City, they've got a new statue up in honor of George III. They've got a ceremony this week, 250 years ago, to kind of commemorate, christen, if you will, that new statue of George III. There's something else part of NYC City, NYC Colony, and that is it feels like there's a race war starting to develop. There's a couple of reports about an uprising in north of the city that's in alliance with some native tribes that's going to burn some towns on the northern Hudson River. On Long Island, there's reports of of a conspiracy to kill white people in that area, slaveholders, enslavers, kill them in that area. There's the feel of a race war if you go by these reports. Something's going on in New York, and it's becoming something unto itself 250 years ago this week, which takes us to number one. Top of the list, top of the heap for this week 250 years ago, it's 15 black men. Now stay with me. 15 black men on, it's called Castle William Island in Boston Harbor. 15 black men, free men, join together, go to the island, go inside the fort, Castle William Island. Go inside the fort that's called Castle William, and they raise their hands and they take a vow. They take a vow to become Lodge number 441 in the Grand Lodge network of Masons, committed to self-improvement, self-advancement, self-enrichment, but not just for the self. This commitment to a life of growth and development is for individual gain that responds to community needs and responds to community benefit. That's the pledge of self-improvement for community worth that's taken by the 15 black men at Castle William Island in Boston Harbor 250 years ago. It's the first black order of its kind in the New World, maybe in the entire world. 15 black men. I've got their names, by the way, on my Americanism Redux entry that's on the website for this past week. I encourage you to go there and read it in honor of them. 15 black men. A couple of things to think about for this. This is a vastly important number one in our top 5. The irony here is so thick you can cut it with a knife and eat it with a spoon and a fork and whatever else. The irony is the sponsors of New Lodge 441 in the Masonic Order is the 38th Infantry in the British Army. So the very unit, or one of the units, that's organized with very little equality other than we all have the same misery under discipline, severe hierarchy of power, fighting on behalf of monarchical rule by king, divine rights by kings, right? This is the group that sponsors them to become Lodge 441 as black men. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. They're doing it in a region, Boston, Massachusetts, New England, in a region that for the last couple of years there's this young movement that's kind of started, this anti-slavery movement, anti-enslavement movement that has started in the Boston area. White people and black people alike. I happen to think that's a very important part of this story from 250 years ago of Lodge number 441 and these 15 black men. And they've caught the spirit. They're breathing in the air, and they're taking sustenance from everything that's happening around them with regard to this young anti-enslavement movement, number one, and the overall new movement, number two, toward liberty and freedom and our rights, our independence as people. They're taking that in as well. So one last thing there too, and that is this Grand Lodge number 441 and its Masonic network. It's trying to renew itself. It's the whole Masonic order movement goes all the way back to the 1200s, 1300s something. For people who work with masonry, Masons are considered the elite of craftsmen. But then you get into the 18th century, and that kind of shifts into something about personal improvement. This order does, and then when you get into the New World, into the British colonies, that even hits a high drive, an acceleration for self improvement and a commitment to changing one's life. And so that's what Lodge number 441 embodies, is that kind of commitment. You really just can't exaggerate the importance of this from 250 years ago. This is why they're number one this week. So I thank you. We've had our top 5. We've gone from a baby in a box to 15 black men raising their hand and saying, yes, me. I appreciate you hanging out with me today. I'm Dr. Dan Miller, Historical Solutions. You've been on the 250 River with Dr. Dan doing our top 5. Go onto the website, see this full entry that I wrote it out as a set of stories. I think you'll enjoy it. I sure enjoyed the researching and writing of it. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great week ahead.